Hi, I'm Praneeth, and welcome to my show, The Active Hour, where we discuss health and fitness, nutrition, and the blueprint to enhance your vitality. This is just non-alcoholic, by the way.
Cheers. Those teachers are better than AI.
But then once you become older, you got like 10 fucking things you got to take care of, you know?
Holy shit. I'm making a real difference at people's lives.
Oh, that's so sweet.
In less than 8 months, we spent over $6 million.
Yeah, that's fucking amazing. Hey, Danny, how's it going?
Hey, Praneeth. Living the dream. It's wonderful out here in LA. How are things in Dallas right now?
Pretty good. It's almost fall. I'm still waiting for it. All right, so let's get into 5 flights, okay? So here's my flights. I have a few shots here. So let's do the first shot, which is a sweet.
All right, I got my sweet.
Yeah, and to everyone, this is just non-alcoholic, by the way.
All right, let's go.
All right, cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, I was gonna say that there's definitely strong orange flavors.
Yeah,
in that one.
All right, so everyone has a spark when they start. Some has basketball, some will have baseball. For you, it was the sneakers. So 9 years in, you fell in love with sneakers, and for you, it was more not just kind of wearing sneakers, because we guys will love sneakers and shoes, right? But for you, you started kind of trading, making business with it. So tell me a little bit about that. When did you think, okay, you know what, this is a nice idea for me?
It was really interesting because the foundation was connection. And so while I was born in LA, I'm first generation American. My parents were immigrants, and they decided to seek actually the inverse of the American dream opportunity, which is they decided after the wall collapsed in the USSR, move to Moscow. So they got us as kids and moved us all to Moscow, and we lived in Moscow and then Spain, came back. And so by the time I came back, I was around 7 years old. I didn't really have friends. I was starting new school. And to your point, it was a couple of years in, I was struggling. I wasn't really making those connections, but I started to have a passion for shoes and shoes with function. So there were these Heeley shoes that had these like little roller skates on the back of them that would pop in and out. There were these soap shoes that you can grind on rails as if you were, effectively a skateboarder, but without the skateboard. And of course, at the time, a big inspiration was Michael Jordan. So I really got into shoes, and that became a conduit to creating friends and connecting. A lot of them didn't know where to get the shoes, and they actually enjoyed and liked the shoes that I was wearing. And I saw at the time as a 8, 9-year-old a business opportunity, which was some of these shoes were difficult to get, some of them were limited. And so I'd buy them and sell them for a small margin to friends. And while it became a way that I can get some pocket change without a doubt, it was really a form of connection, right? So I fell in love with the relationships I was building through the shoes. Through our joint excitement and passion around them. And so the community we were building, the hustle, that was that first time that I realized that there are so many different ways to make friends. Because I'll tell you that certainly a lot of the people in my elementary school were not making friends enough.
Yeah. And I think this kind of DNA led you to create this ReadyRx right now. We'll talk more about it, and let's get our next flight shot. Are you ready for the soar?
I am so.
Yeah. All right. Cheers.
All right. Cheers, Praneeth. Bitter, sour.
Yeah.
More than bitter, but yeah.
So I think now you know where you're going right now. So you had a couple of tragedies going in. Your mom was estranged and decided, right when you wanted to go into the business school, unfortunately, your dad passed away. So how did you overcome these sore moments, and how did this kind of make you a different person to what you are today?
So when I was about 12 or 13, my father was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and then he had cancer, and it was...
Sorry about that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, he had lung cancer, but if you're a male today, in today's day and age, The statistic directionally is like you have certainly a greater than 40% likelihood if you're over the age of 60 to get prostate cancer, right? Like cancer is it's unfortunately becoming more common. Colorectal cancer is on the rise, greater than it has in any decades in the past. And but at the time he got lung cancer, it was operated on, removed, and they said, hey, if it doesn't come back in 5 years, you're fine. 5 years later, he got a scan, didn't come back. 5.5 years later, another scan, it came back metastatic. And when I was coming out of high school, as you had said, my mother estranged us. So my father was our rock, not only emotionally, but he was our safety net in every capacity. So I really, I'm from Los Angeles, as I said, and I only applied to USC to attend that university because it was close to my father. But what had happened was we were told he doesn't have an opportunity to continue going. Like it was over for him, and it was just a matter of time. And as he went on some trial treatments, they did tell us ultimately, hey, your dad is a miracle.
Yeah.
And that was the most incredible, like one of the best days of my life, without a doubt, sitting there in that doctor's office and hearing, this is a miracle. We really can't understand what happened, but your dad is in remission. After telling us with certainty that he had a finite life. Mm-hmm. It was a new lease on life. And I did, I was working an investment banker job at the time, and I wanted to go to New York. I hadn't experimented outside of the state essentially for my dad. And so I had a very serious conversation with him about wanting to go to business school and living in New York. And he was very supportive.
Yeah.
Not only emotionally, but financially as well. He said, hey, if I understand you're going to be attending school, I'll be there for you. And it was a tremendous safety. And so just as I was getting ready to move to New York, we get this amazing news that he is in remission. And then a month later, he passes away.
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a very defining moment for me. Of course, it was an emotional yo-yo, right? To be told that your father's certainly dying, he's in full remission, he's going to live, and then him passing away. That takes a toll on someone. But also, I think that shaped kind of my thoughts around the healthcare system, how subjective it is, and certainly informed and inspired who I am today and what I'm doing today. But it was difficult because, first of all, I lost the only parent I had really in my life. Yeah. I was making this difficult move to New York where I was starting fresh. I had just quit a high-paying banking job at the same time. So I was fortunate that when I was going to business school, I received a full ride. So while that cost was not a burden, New York is an expensive city. Yeah, and a 25-year-old, that's the only cost wasn't tuition when moving to New York. And so it kind of changed the trajectory of what I was going to do. And it was tough because I was really excited for this experience. And it became a different experience. I really just had to focus and force myself to figure out, okay, how do you survive on yourself? You have no safety net anymore. And when you lose that fundamental safety net, like I think what a lot of kids and young folks, the reason why university is still, in my perspective, important isn't because those teachers are better than AI. It's because you go and you learn how to live by yourself for the first time. But in the back of your head, when you do that, you always have your parents to fall back on.
Exactly.
You lose that safety net, an emotional challenge, and a real life challenge that you have to overcome. It was definitely a setback for me. The loss was brutal, but it gave me resilience, that I wouldn't have otherwise gained, and it shaped who I am today.
Where your father is, he'll be super proud of you, looking at kind of achievements you've done.
I very much appreciate that.
And on to our next flight chart is the bitter.
Bitter.
Yeah. All right. Cheers, Danny.
Cheers. So, boy, that was really, really bitter. And I still have a very strong bitter aftertaste in my mouth.
Now, in terms of the bitter emotion, after business school, you just mentioned that you had a good paid job and then you kind of quit it and you were working on yourself, and there were nights that you slept under your desk and you closed a fucking $100 million deal.
Yeah.
Talk me through that emotion.
Yeah. So in New York, business school, worked the entire time I was in business school, paid jobs to help support myself. And after I actually finished a little bit early, and helped open up an office for a big private equity firm out in Europe, opened up their first US offices in New York. And then there was something pulling me back to Los Angeles. And so I decided to take a chance on an up and coming private equity firm in Los Angeles, moved here, joined them in a more senior role. And the team was really, really small, but we were working on big deals. So we were wearing all hats, quarterbacking deals. It was really intense. We started scaling our deals, and we did this incredible deal where we essentially didn't raise any money for the deal. There was no fund for the deal. And we took a $600 million in sales business and essentially took it for free.
Nice.
And it was a really intense struggle. And yeah, there were many nights where, I slept under the table there. And even though I was a senior, we were a small team. So we all had to do everything. And that deal was transformative for the partners at the company because, like I said, there was no outside capital. So we essentially, not only did we inherit this business that was doing 600 million in sales, the writing was on the wall how to fix that business, but also we inherited assets. So we inherited a $40 million building. What ended up happening there was when that deal closed, there was certainly an expectation, a conversation expectation of what the financial situation would look like to me. As it actually, after all the hard work was done and we came to the finish line, and then it was time to write that check, it didn't play out the way that
I had
thought. So that was a very bitter moment, having just come back to Los Angeles, taking this big mortgage, taking a chance on a company coming from another private equity firm that was like 100 times the size. And then helping quarterback and execute on this deal that, like you said, for that one partner made him literally over $100 million. That was a bitter moment. And what happened there was, while I feel as though the work was put into helping mentor me, I think that really shaped and determined who I want to work with going forward, right? Like people that you trust, people that are true to their words.
Right.
It was the catalyst for me to decide to get back to being an entrepreneur, right? Outside of selling shoes, my first formal company I started when I was 18. So this was the chance to do that.
The next one is spicy.
Okay, like tandoori spicy?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is your spicy thing? What is it mixed out of?
I'm getting like turmeric spice here, but we'll see once it goes down. I'm still.
All right, let's do the spicy one. Cheers.
All right, cheers to spicy.
Oh god, mine is so fucking spicy.
There's the chili spice. This is the Szechuan spice. There's the hot sauce spice.
Yeah.
This is the heavy turmeric that is a great palate cleanser, but it's strong.
So now, how did you take this bold risk of becoming an entrepreneur, and then you set up ReadyRx? So tell me a little bit about why you had to become an entrepreneur. Why did you set up ReadyRx, and how is this making an impact in the wellness field?
Yeah. Well, so how I became an entrepreneur is in private equity, we deal with buying a number of businesses. So in our portfolio, I was, in addition to buying the businesses, responsible to help manage those.
Okay.
But I was never in the weeds, right? Like I was very high level, and I really wanted to make an impact. And I really wanted to, for all intents and purposes, stop doing the two things that I was doing, which is either buying crappy businesses and making them good, or buying fine businesses with some debt, paying that debt over time, and then making a profit. I really wanted to build something and create an impact. So that was kind of the fundamental thought process surrounding being an entrepreneur. I didn't know, and so why I wanted to do it. But at the time that I left the private equity firm, I didn't know exactly what that looked like. I had passions. I was very excited. I didn't know how to get started. And, I started with some real estate, realized that that's not what I was excited about. Took some time, got involved with some affiliate marketing businesses that really opened up my eyes to social media and marketing and as a whole. But once again, it wasn't what I was calling to me. And at this point, I had this burden I was facing, which is I have this mortgage, I have this property tax, and I have to meet those payments, but I quit my high paying job that helped support those.
Exactly.
And so things were getting tight, and I started interviewing for another large private equity firm and saying, maybe I'll give up. Maybe like entrepreneur, like
It's
maybe
hard,
I'm not,
right? Yeah.
yeah, it's hard. Maybe I'm not made to be an entrepreneur. I was questioning myself. And a friend at that time said, hey, I really want you to co-found this business with me.
Nice.
I think that you can always go back to private equity, spend a year or two doing this, it'll be rewarding. And so that wasn't ReadyRx, by the way. That was a business, and I was inspired by the mission. The mission is, hey, this is just after COVID. All these small businesses are effectively back on their vendor payments. They're unable to meet their basic obligations and they're going bankrupt.
Oh, okay.
How do we help these businesses get grants or otherwise funding to stay in business, SBA, et cetera? And I was inspired by the mission of helping the small mom and pop businesses stay afloat during this like massively inflationary time and with all the restrictions imposed by COVID. That was like such a fundamentally shaping and rewarding experience. I've never been on the inside seat seeing what social media ad spend looked like, but in less than 8 months, we spent over $6 million on ad spend.
Wow,
And
nice.
it was a rocket ship to be a part of. So that was unexpected. I learned so much. I wore so many hats and I loved my partners. And at the time, I had a really good friend who I'd never worked with before. But I said, hey, we need someone to effectively lead our sales team.
Mm-hmm.
Love you as a friend.
Yeah.
Maybe this goes against best judgment. But I know you're kind of like somewhat in between things right now and looking for your next exciting opportunity. Why don't you do this with us? That was one of my best decisions ever. He crushed it. My current partner in ReadyRx.com many years later. But that decision to make that move instead of going back into private equity changed everything. It showed me the impact I could have as a founder and set me on the path to where I am today. But the fundamental notion for ReadyRx and ReadyRx.com and what we're doing is we leaned into how do we help with implementing a large scale way to have broader democratized access to the future of health. So we were very into personally healthy aging and lifespan. And so Peter Attia was a huge inspiration for us.
Yeah,
And
that guy's amazing though. Yeah.
so we were reading Outlive and started cold plunging and saunaing and doing all the things that we know can help us live a longer, healthier life. We discovered wellness clinics and these med spas, and they had these longevity therapies that were $1,200 a session. And they're not FDA regulated. There's no doctor involved. So you're going to, first of all, they're not in every city. These are therapies that you're supposed to be doing at least weekly. So you're talking about just a single therapy. You're talking about someone needing essentially over $5,000 a month just on it, right?
Yeah.
Just crazy. But also, since they're not FDA regulated, you don't know if you're getting water. Like you don't know what you're getting. And we thought that's just absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
So what we developed was a partnership with a massive vetted group of physicians nationally in all 50 states. And we partnered with the leading national pharmacies, federally
awesome.
regulated pharmacies, to provide supplements and medications that are doctor prescribed, all online, delivered to your house that help you live a longer, healthier life, but that work, right? Incredible lab tested quality, each batch, and FDA regulated massive compounding pharmacies that we partnered with in all 50 states in order to deliver the same therapies or similar supplemental therapies to these med spas. But we did it with the intent of democratizing that and ensuring that you're actually getting what you're paying for. So in that, everything is doctor prescribed. Everything is coming from it's a prescription pharmaceutical, even if it's a supplement. And we're giving you a month supply, not a session, but a month supply at a 90% discount. And thirdly, it's supplements, right? So you walk into your GNC or you walk into your CVS and you have all these supplements or dailies that you take or see. And a lot of people don't realize that they don't work. And the reason they don't work orally, that is to say, the vitamins themselves are crucial for us. We can't digest them properly. We can't metabolize them. So by the time it actually reaches the gut, we're getting very little to none of the active vitamins. And usually it'll come out in the form of urine, as I'm sure you've seen before.
Yeah,
If you've taken too much, is yet like neon green.
yeah.
But that doesn't happen when you're getting it properly through an injection. So, we have B12, methylated B12. That's the highest bioavailability. And the intent is to educate people that the supplementation they're currently taking oftentimes does not work, is not bioavailable. And so you need that supplementation. It hasn't been, from a cost perspective or otherwise, accessible. And we're trying to create that access and education and high quality product through ReadyRx.com. But really, the intent is to help reform the broader healthcare system.
Yeah, that's fucking amazing, because when I read through it, I understood that this is not just limited to longevity, but you have other life aspects too, like lose fat, build muscle. So that's very nice to know. So are you ready for your last flight, which is a fresh, fruity flavor?
I could use a little bit of a change, so let's do it.
All right, cheers, Danny, for the last one.
Cheers, Praneeth.
Very refreshing.
I have no idea what that was. It was fresh. Right,
yeah.
No idea what it was, but it was definitely fresh.
So what are your next goals from here? You have ReadyRx and you want to take it to the next level. How do you want to take it from here?
Yeah. Look, I think everyone's fundamental goal is like, hey, I would say it's like 10% monetary, 90% otherwise. Everyone's fundamental goal is, how do I not get put in a position where I can't pay my bills?
Because you're at a position where you couldn't buy tacos for your friends and for your fiance.
My fiance, right? Like so. But for perspective, I've been engaged at this point now 2.5 years, and we still haven't had our wedding. That wasn't a choice. It was a monetary decision.
Right.
And when you look in the mirror and like, look, if I stayed in my corporate path, this wouldn't be a conversation topic. It was a risk I took. It was a self-made decision, right? Thinking back about 1.5 years ago, every dollar I was getting was going to, and my wife is an incredible hard worker, and she's very fiance, but at this point, after you're engaged for 3.5 years, you learn to just call her wife. Every dollar that we were making was going to mortgage and property tax. And so it just, it felt almost demasculating. Like I didn't feel like I could support and contribute when I couldn't buy her, she has a favorite taco place. I couldn't, essentially saying we should cook tonight. That was a low point. It was very difficult. And, it's tough to not get into a dark mindset there. So full circle, you start seeing the success that we're seeing, which doesn't happen overnight. And I want to, for every future entrepreneur, I want to make a point very clear, which is there's nothing more rewarding than building. Whether you're founding or part of a founding team or a startup that's building, there's nothing more rewarding than actually seeing the fruits of your labor and having an impact. But if you are part of that founder team that decides to not get a paycheck for possibly many years, and or when you start getting one is really low. It's you have to go into it with the right mindset, and it's more difficult as you age, right? Like you don't have a mortgage and property tax when you're coming out of college.
Yeah, but then once you become older, you got like 10 fucking things you got to take care of,
Right. So you have more responsibilities. You're less risk averse. So we were doing this as we were slightly older. Can be less common, and so it was depressing for a time period. And so I'll say, once again, I go back to it's like 10% monetary.
Sure.
Be able to go out and not feel the constraints monetarily was nice. It's a very good feeling, but that's the lowest priority. Like we're not a non-for-profit. We are a for-profit business, but that fundamentally, once you get that, that's great. Then you start hearing about, even before that, the impact that you're making. Yeah. So when you hear about your customers and patients that are talking about either finally being able to wake up in the morning when they've lived their whole life exhausted, or when you hear these stories, last 1.5 years, I've lost over 90 pounds.
That's awesome.
I can move again, and I've gotten my confidence back. These, even at small scale, that creates a feedback loop where you realize, holy shit, I'm making a real difference in people's lives. Yeah. And then when that scales, so you get to kind of where we're at now, I think that's what it's all about. Like really being able to see the impact of what you're doing, and that you can have such a large, and tens of thousands of people have such a large impact on their daily lives, and help them reconfigure their brains to understand that they should be living a healthier life and inspire them to rethink what they've been taught for 20, 30, 40 years. So that is why we do what we do. I would also say for any entrepreneurs who experience some degree of success, maybe you're not like me, but there's only so much money, right? That like is helpful. Like there's only that big of a house. Like you don't need all these things. And maybe that's just kind of how I think about things. So then the question becomes, okay, what other impact do you want to have, right? And so for me, I've always been passionate about investing. And so what's rewarding is taking this ReadyRx.com success and then giving back to the future entrepreneurs. I already help mentor people from my business school, undergrad, and high school that are interested in startups.
That's so sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. Being able to scale that though, and both financially help them achieve goals and the entrepreneurs of the future, but also be able to help mentor them. I think that's the fresh part of what being a successful entrepreneur is finding whatever that is for you and giving back to the greater community. I think like we are in the most interesting time with the scale of what's happening currently with technology. So being a part of the future leaders of the world and helping form and shape what impact they're going to cause on the world is what this is all about for me, right? Like to inspire, to allow people to take risks. And so I think that's the most rewarding and fresh part about everything that we do.
That's beautiful though. Well, Danny, it was wonderful talking to you, and I wish and hope you continue to inspire and motivate everyone around you and continue to make an impact in the healthcare sector.
Thank you so much, Praneeth. I just want to, it's morning time out here.
Yeah.
I do want to thank you for starting my day off in the most peculiar way, is both sweet, sour, but it was also bitter, spicy. Right?
Yeah.
An incredible job, and I love what you're doing. And please keep it up. You're inspired. Never let anyone tell you you can't. Right? Everyone will hit roadblocks, but they're self-imposed until you break through them. And so we love what you're doing, and we're so grateful that you included us in the pod.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. It's been an honor talking to you and learning more about your journey.
Thank you so much, Praneeth. All right. We'll speak soon and have a day.
Take care. Peace.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the Active Hour podcast. We hope you loved the episode. If you did, please give us some love in the reviews. Guess what? No ChatGPT was used in the making of this episode. Until next time, bye.